Washington Journal continues.
Back at our table this morning, the Congresswoman from Texas, Sheila Jackson Lee, a Democrat. Good morning to you. Thanks for being here.
Thank you.
Let's talk about that budget vote yesterday in the House. How did you vote and why?
Well, I voted yes after much review and also much concern about the full faith and credit of this country, the times that we have come to the brink before in terms of default and what our responsibilities are to the American people. But there are several elements that I think are very important that we should affirm this morning, which drove me to believe that this was, in fact, a compromise and a strong deal. Would I've wanted it to be better? Absolutely. But I think for the American people who've been listening to us debate and maybe even bicker, some of these elements really help lives. In a month or two, or a couple of days really, the Medicare Part B recipients or users would have their costs go up more than 50%. We have stopped that in its tracks. We've helped seniors, and those costs will be very, very limited, under 20%. I'd like it to be zero, but that's a very important part of the bill. We have protected Medicare and Social Security. There are provisions dealing with fraud, and I think it is really a disingenuous representation that some have tried to say that we've cut Social Security and Medicare benefits. We have not. We've created sort of processes to ensure that the people who deserve those benefits get them. Now, I'm concerned about a provision that extends the appeal process for those seeking Social Security disability by adding a doctor to the process. But let me say that as a member of Congress, I will be studious in reviewing whether or not that is undermining my constituents' ability to be served and work on that. But it lifts the debt ceiling until March 15, 2017. And let me finally say, I have been opposed to sequester since it didn't work. The idea of sequester was to push that General Finance Committee to make a budget deal. They never made a budget deal. Sequester came in, and we have been harmed ever since. We've lost Head Start seats. National Institutes of Health have lost money. So now we have a balance of an $80 billion plus paid for in defense spending. I call that providing resources, salaries for our personnel in the United States military, readiness, not going to war, but readiness for our military, and then plussing up on the non-defense discretionary spending, which is for our viewers to note, are real services for them, education, as I said, Head Start seats, the National Institutes of Health, the environment. I just couldn't pass that up to be able to help the American people.
The Social Security disability provision that requires a medical doctor to sign off on the disability, 20 states have it. We heard from viewers, though, yesterday that some of them, it took them 3 years to navigate the process to finally get disability insurance. One woman telling us that she was denied 2 times, she has lesions on her brain, denied 2 times before she was finally approved.
That is not the fault, if you will, of putting a doctor in place, but it is the fault of the bureaucracy of the Social Service Administration. All members of Congress should condemn that. I condemn it heavily. I do a lot of Social Security cases. And so part of our work will be in reforming the Social Security Administration. Is partly administrative, partly additional laws. It should not have taken her 3 years. And a doctor's intervention should not take her 3 years. And so, one, with the funding that is going to be provided, doctors should be increased in numbers, if you will. The review should be more speedily, and we should be concerning and err on the side of those, I call them victims at this point in time. If you're victimized by the system, you're a victim, but it should fall on the side of those who truly are beneficiaries and need to benefit from the Social Security system. That is what it was put in place for. It is not a handout, it is a hand up, and it should move as quickly as possible so these people can have a better quality of life. I encourage the listeners, the viewers, to particularly engage their member of Congress, but to engage their Social Security office. Take a relative with you. Be persistent in the call. And again, your final act is to go to your member of Congress office. I know that they will be able to help you. But this process is to even out the utilization of a doctor and to make sure that those doctors are funded. There are enough doctors so that individuals can be quickly assessed and that your benefits can start coming. This 3-year delay has been going on across the system, primarily because of the Social Security bureaucracy. We want to see that stop immediately.
More to discuss with you on different topics, but let me get to some calls first. Jackie in Santa Clara, California, Democrat. Good morning.
Good morning.
Hi, I'm kind of nervous. I've been watching the representative on TV for many years. It's kind of nice to get a chance to speak.
It's a pleasure to be with you.
I have a couple of comments, and I'd like to finish with my solution to the Social Security Medicare problem, which parts you've already mentioned. But I remember I started listening to I'm getting nervous.
It's okay.
It's all right, Jackie.
Go right ahead, Jackie.
Yeah, go ahead with your question.
I started paying attention to politics mostly when Bush got elected, and he came up with his big idea of giving all the tax breaks to everybody, and I got $600. And I thought, why in the heck? They're giving away millions of dollars, and I get $600. I would gladly let you keep my $600. I don't need it. And all the years that the Republicans have maneuvered to get the taxes down so that less money is spent towards the Social Security, and the debt keeps increasing with all the things that Bush did. And I remember every week when I would get my paycheck and the deductions would be taken out for Social Security, Medicare, to me, it never seemed like a lot of money because it was never there when I went to cash my check, so I never missed it. And if I would have realized when I was a kid that this is the way the program works and that now it takes 3 people to pay the one person that's retired, that I would have gladly have had no problem putting in more.
And Jackie, can I ask you to tell us your solution?
Yes, that would be my solution, that the people that earn over $106,000 a year should pay the same amount as everybody else. Plus, if everybody, like I was suggesting, would be willing to pay a little bit more, then that seems to me that the problem would be completely resolved.
Okay. Congresswoman.
Jackie, first of all, thank you. If you had asked me the question, is this the budget bill that Democrats would have written or I would have written, I'd say to you, no, that we obviously take your line of thought not to oppress people or to overtax people. In fact, I don't like that word. I think it's sharing and looking for your government to invest in people and to ensure that as people are prosperous, those who have fallen on hard times, who worked all their life and finally come to retirement, as Franklin Delano Roosevelt thought, would have something called Social Security. You remember that it was the Democrats who fought heavily against the idea of privatizing Social Security. Just imagine if we had privatized Social Security and we fell into that debacle of 2008, 2007, when the market crashed, what would have happened to seniors who had worked all of their lives? So yes, I do believe you're speaking of payroll taxes, and that's a very sensitive issue. Again, it's payroll taxes instead of, what about payroll investment? And then out of that comes a very sure program called Medicare that has saved millions of lives since 1965. When seniors had a sort of an umbrella of security on their health care and then Social Security. So this bill, this budget bill, was a compromise. I think its most striking value was the idea that the full faith and credit of the United States, when we were lowered in our credit rating just a year or two ago when we had this big fight, unnecessary fight, that Republicans put forward, we found a compromise to help to ensure that your interest rates, your investments, would not default by the very fact that we defaulted and our interest, our credit rating went down here in the United States. The people of the United States did not deserve that. But I'm looking forward to being able to, if you will, draft, include my concerns in a budget bill when the Democrats have the opportunity to govern the House and the Senate.
Spartanburg, South Carolina. Jim, Republican.
Hey, Greta, how are you?
Morning.
You look nice as always.
Thank you.
You know, your guest has talked about many issues about the credit ability of the nation. Under President Obama, the debt has grown from $9 trillion to $18 trillion. Of that, $2 trillion was for wars. Where did the other $7 billion go? And isn't that in and of itself not being and putting the credit of our country in danger? And second, regarding the Veterans Institution, this administration has been responsible for that program for 7 years, yet they can't fire an ineffective government worker. That is a Democratic policy to protect government jobs. That's a problem that's hampering our ability to even counter that. And then your side has promised many Social Security benefits to non-retired people, putting further strain on the system and less money available for those other benefits and programs. So isn't your party very responsible for the problem in those two areas?
Well, I thank the caller very much, and this is the importance of debate, discussion, and also the importance of the American people having the right to choose between party philosophies, Republicans and Democrats. I would tell the caller that the crisis that we experienced in 2007, 2008 was in the Bush administration when Wall Street collapsed. Companies went out of business, people lost jobs. When President Obama came in, we were able to save the entirety of the auto industry. We reformed it, meaning Democrats and President Obama. Today we have a thriving auto industry. Wall Street has seen profits that it's never seen before. Social Security, which was started way before President Obama, has been strengthened. That is the compromise of this bill, working with Democrats and Republicans. Medicare is solvent. Social Security is solvent as well. The system dealing with the Veterans Affairs or Veterans Hospital is one that no member of Congress tolerated. I sat with Republicans and Democrats fighting against the bureaucracy there and the horrors of veterans waiting for their services. None of us wanted that, and we put laws in place to stop that. Civil service laws are valuable laws to protect the rights of those who work every day as public servants, who do many, many tasks in the federal government, and I would not do away with it, but what I would say to you is that there has been a strong look at the employees and the work, and I think that that's been done in the Veterans Affairs, Veterans Hospital system, and many have experienced reprimand, some termination, some suspension, but the real focus is on service to the veterans. We have been servicing the debt. We're a bigger country. We're not the same size we were 2 years ago, 5 years ago, or when President Obama came in. I'm very proud of the fact that the debt has gone down and that we have serviced the deficit that we've had, and therefore we're making progress. We're not where we'd like to be, but let me tell you what the best idea is, and that is job creation. And over the period that President Obama's been in, from the very low point of coming in 2009, and being in a complete catastrophe, having to put in the stimulus bill to keep this country standing, we have created over 200,000 jobs almost every month for 2 years. We are on the move as a country, and we have to do better. We have to create more jobs. We have to make sure that people feel comfortable about their jobs and their income. And I can assure you that Democrats, with Leader Pelosi and many of us, are in, if you will, the mood and in the position to really fight for our constituents and to make sure that they have a prosperous life.
Joe is next, in Ash, North Carolina, independent.
Yes, madam. If they would go ahead and put all the money that was borrowed or absconded with from Social Security to buy bonds and whatever and put it back in to the Social Security market and not go ahead and earmark it for the Congress and Senate's pet little projects that they take from it, just like your road tax, where the states get into general funds and they take it. Put it back where it belongs. Keep your hands off of it. And as far as the military people go, my grandfather was in the First World War. My father, my uncles were in the Second World War. I was drafted. I served my time. I pay my taxes. Now I'm getting very old and I'm ill, and we should take care of our elderly and that. But put your money back. Don't take it. It's not your piggy banks.
Well, I agree with you 100%, and I think you'll be very pleased to note that any savings that has come about through this budget compromise will go directly into Social Security and Medicare. We will take those savings, just like you've said. You are, I don't mind saying it, we thank you for your service. We thank your family for your service. You're owed a debt, and we need to pay you the debt. And whether you're ill or experiencing good health during your retirement, you need to have your full benefits. You need not worry about whether Social Security is in trouble or Medicare is in trouble. And I totally agree with you that whatever savings we have with Social Security and in Medicare should go into the program only. And that's our commitment through this budget. And I'm looking forward to that being the case. Let me also say, Greta, as you know, that this is Breast Cancer Awareness Month. And to all of the survivors there, or those who've lost family members, we have a commitment here in the United States Congress to ensure the research at the National Institutes of Health to help find a cure. We also are commemorating Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and I remember the introduction of the Violence Against Women Act, and we've made great strides. We encourage those who are experiencing domestic violence to get help.
I want to bring in another topic as well, and that's the headline from yesterday's paper. U.S. looks to step up Islamic State fight, and then you've got USA Today saying, the Pentagon saying that they're looking to expand the presence of ground combat troops or advisors in Iraq, Syria. Tillman 40 wants to know, should the administration be sending advisors, a.k.a. ground troops, into Syria and Iraq?
Well, if there is ever a more frustrating conflict and somewhat mysterious conflict, and when I say mysterious, ISIL and the fight and the caliphate are so different from what America and other countries have been engaged in over the years. I frankly believe that ISIL is the greatest terrorist threat that we've seen because it is more unpredictable, more dangerous, more vile, and it attacks Muslims, Christians, and others alike. So in this instance, the President has looked to what kind of advisors and collaborators, if you will, with those who are on the ground can be most helpful for those who are in the fight. In this instance, these are troops that are coming in, combat troops. Some are involved in special forces. And I would make the argument that the American people want to be engaged, that the Congress should have the opportunity for debate, but that I believe that the present posture of the administration is to be as helpful with as limited footprint as possible.
Is it a slippery slope? Is this administration taking the country back into Iraq?
I think with President Obama, I would say absolutely not. He has been, if you will, a commander-in-chief that has wanted to be very particular and very protective of the men and women in the United States military who he knows that when he calls them, they rise to serve. And so I think this is a thoughtful effort to strengthen the technique and the know-how of those troops that are on the ground and to, if you will, gird the Kurds who are fighting this war and to give that kind of support system. Congress will be monitoring it. The American people will be monitoring it. I don't think this is an effort to put a large war footprint now with United States troops.
We'll go to Harrisburg, Pennsylvania. Wayne's watching there, Democrat. Good morning.
All right, how y'all ladies doing?
Good morning.
I would like to know, right, about Social Security. Now, if you put people back to work, that should help Social Security out. But my problem is, in the black community, the people from 18 to 35, they are out of work. And I know this for a fact. And another question I would like you to answer for me. Ben Carson, the Republicans is backing him. They don't even like Barack Obama. And you telling me that they going to nominate him to be president? I don't see that at all.
Okay, Congresswoman?
Well, first of all, this caller, good morning, my friend, has hit it on the nail. You have hit it on the nail. First of all, as I indicated, I remember when President Obama first came in and the auto industry collapsed, what a major catastrophe. That was a job creator for so many in the Midwest area. Many of those were young people. So we really have our eye on making sure that we do much better in job creation for young people. Yesterday I participated in a hearing led by Minority Whip Hoyer to talk about Make It in America or Making It in America. And the bill that I introduced was to create a STEM and job training bill for individuals by giving them a stipend while they are learning and working with small businesses. That's why we need investment in this country, and that's why we need to not be talking about giving tax benefits to the top 1% or corporations We need to have investment where we create jobs for young people between 18 and 25. They are our todays, not just our future, they're our todays. We need to give them the new tech training. I am pushing and supporting a tech college, a Houston Community College in Northeast Houston, that is going to be teaching welding and air conditioning and machinery and automotive high tech, not how to be just a ordinary mechanic, and those are good jobs, but to be able to know how to do the most sophisticated technology in new automobiles, jobs for young people. You're absolutely right. And so I believe that is the direction that we're going to go. That's what Democrats want to do. We want to be job creators in a jobs bill. I'm supporting a full employment bill, that every American has a right to a job and every young person has a right to a job. We're working to be elected so we can push that legislation, pass it, and have it signed just the way President Johnson had the Great Society. Let me just say that on the candidate, Dr. Carson, it's going to be the right of the people to make their choices in agreeing in some of the things of his proposals of eliminating Medicaid and Medicare, of a flat tax that's certainly going to bring the country to its knees and not be able to fund the various services that we need for the American people. But it's going to be the choice of those voters as to who the Republicans choose. We'll be choosing a candidate in Hillary Clinton that hopefully will represent all of the people of the United States of America and not just a few.
You've already endorsed Hillary Clinton.
I have.
Okay. You were at the Benghazi hearing. Folks who watched it and sat for those 11 hours probably saw you directly behind her. Why did you think it was important to be there?
Well, first of all, I'm on the Judiciary Committee, and I have served for a number of years, and as well, I'm the ranking member on the Crime, Terrorism, Homeland Security. So the substance of the Benghazi hearing would have a direct impact on some of the issues that we deal with. Secondarily, I've had great respect for Secretary Clinton, who's one of the hardest working, most effective Secretary of State. And I think probably not thirdly, but maybe above number one, 4 Americans lost their lives. I have a great sensitivity to that and sadness to that. I've been to almost every war zone since I've been elected to the United States Congress. I've visited our soldiers. I've been to the foreign services representatives who've been on the Foreign Service and met them and see how hard they work. So I was saddened by that. And if there was anything that we could have done to alter that tragedy, I wanted to hear it and know it. And I wanted to hear Secretary Clinton's responses to those questions. I think she handled the questions with straightforwardness and professionalism, passion, and caring. And I think we have a pathway to making the pathway for our foreign service representatives much better. As to the committee, I don't think they found anything new. I think it was important for the American people to hear Secretary Clinton, but I think now we should get to work and make sure that we shore up our foreign embassies, provide diplomatic service funding. And by the way, the diplomatic security, who I saw just a few weeks ago when I was on Encodal, they have done a stunning job. Some of them lost their life in this tragedy, and we added more funding for the diplomatic security in this budget bill.
We'll go next to Helen in Tennessee, a Republican. Helen, are you with us?
Hello? Yes, I am. Thank you, and good morning to you all.
Good morning.
Yeah. I like, number one, Representative Lee, I'd like to say this wasn't one of my comments, but I just heard you make a comment on training versus college, et cetera. That is so important. Kids, children, and I'm a grandmother, a great-grandmother, whatever, but the thing is, no child should leave high school, per se, without some sort of specific training or specific direction into college. Nobody. And that's one of the problems. And my father, who was Ukrainian, civil engineer and a decorated soldier back in Europe there, always said that was a problem here when we first moved here, that our children are not being educated properly.
Okay, Helen, we're running out of time with the Congresswoman, so I want to get her reaction to what she's hearing from you.
I think that's excellent. Thank you, Helen, so very much. Thank you for your family service. So that is the whole key of why we're trying to turn the corner in education. The academics are obviously important. We're looking for researchers and doctors, lawyers, but we must balance that with welders, as I indicated, people who know machinery, electrician, carpentry, and then people who know the new technology of working with your hands, but also working with technology. Cars are not going to be made the way they have been made before. They're predicting that we're going to have driverless cars. There will be people needing to fix those driverless cars. The Houston Community College Northeast Campus in Houston and many campuses around America need the support of those of us in Congress to provide added resources to what the people of those communities to educate all of our children. And then we need apprenticeships and internships. The legislation that I introduced would allow those individuals to come out of community college or come out of college or come out of high school and participate in small businesses, which are the backbone of America, I think are very important. And might I just say that to add to that, we're now looking to pass real criminal justice reform in sentencing and prison reform so that people who have made a detour in life, those individuals, nonviolent, can be restored to their families and have a likewise opportunity to be trained in skills that will allow them to have a job. Criminal justice reform is not about inmates or criminals. It's about families and their various loved ones who have been caught up in the criminal justice system because of nonviolent drug offenses, who are now having the opportunity on the House bill that has been introduced, the Senate bill, then with additional amendments to work in support of the Congressional Black Caucus that's really worked on this issue, amendments that may be dealing with staleness or mental health and make the bill better as we go to markup, but to really look at criminal justice reform as a way of reinvesting back in America, finding a pathway for restoration of those who were detoured in their early life.
Ronnie is next in Poughkeepsie, New York, independent.
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
I really think, like the gentleman called a few minutes ago about Ben Carson. You're right. They were screaming at Obama. I don't know why the Republicans would even want to elect Ben Carson. And Social Security, that's Social Security is more like you're putting in what you worked for all your life, and then the Republicans want to take it. That's not fair. And Obama actually saved this country because we were on the brink of going to the edge of the abyss. But the Republicans don't want to give him that credit. And that's about it. Thank you.
Thank you. You know why I love this country, and thank you for saying that. First of all, because we hear from so many Americans from across the political spectrum like yourself. And all I can say is that this is an exciting future presidential year in 2016 where all of you will get a chance to express your desires for the future of America. And I want a future that is full of investment opportunities for everyone, shored up Social Security and Medicare for all of those who've worked, and an opportunity that does not cease for our children. And I think that's what you're speaking of. The great excitement is you'll have a chance to vote. President Obama did, joining with members of the Democratic caucus and working with the United States Congress in the first 2 years where we passed more legislation than any other Congress. I think it was the 111th Congress, with Speaker Pelosi at that time, the Affordable Care Act, taking us away from the brink, if you will, providing of collapse, providing the stimulus, restoring the auto industry, protecting the environment, the new GI Bill for Iraq and Afghanistan soldiers. We did a lot. Now we're moving toward, with his vision of criminal justice reform, which we're hoping to ensure, just as he has implemented the clemency process. And today the Washington Post has just noted that 6,000 persons will be returning to their families. Some will be in the immigration process and will return back to their countries. But the main thing is nonviolent drug offenders will now have a second chance. That's why we've got to invest in this country with education, because those individuals are now coming back to their communities. They need a second chance. They want a second chance. And I think we're better for it if we give them that second chance.
Congresswoman, on Speaker John Boehner's last day, I want to get your reaction to this in the Washington Times. They talk about how under his leadership there have been a more open floor process. And they note that Mr. Boehner oversaw 900 amendments in 2011, 589 in 2012, 526 in 2013, and last year 624. The House is on track for another Boehner year with 732 amendments offered through the first 10 months. You, it says, a Democrat from Texas, a prolific amender, single-handedly accounted for 124 amendments during the nearly 5 years Mr. Boehner served as Speaker. What are your thoughts on him?
Well, let me say that Speaker Boehner is liked by all of us, or much of the United States House of Representatives. As we reflect on his leadership, we think that he tried to open the process of legislation. What are we here for if we're not here to make better what passes out of the House of Representatives? So I'm going to personally say thank you for allowing thoughtful amendments of members to be presented and debated on the floor. And I was very pleased to have some of those thoughtful amendments that impacted my constituents. You may not, and I think one of the things that's very important is process, engagement, opportunity is the legislative process. And so that if a bill comes, and some people always think that the passage of bills and people's names on bills is a singular act of a member of Congress. There are many of us, there are few bills that get to the president's desk. If you have an opportunity to have your handprint on a bill on behalf of your constituents, then that is a positive step. That's what Mr. Boehner obviously led on. There are many things we disagreed on. Obviously, sequester, we believe was an undermining of the functioning of government and the helping of the American people. But in an open process, in a process of being the kind of speaker that welcomed members, welcomed their issues, engaged Mr. Boehner on the floor, he was always welcoming, and I believe he's a public servant that can be very proud of his record, not only in the United States Congress, but his service to the American people.
And today ends 25 years in Congress for Speaker Boehner. His presumptive successor, Paul Ryan, a Republican from Wisconsin, could be sworn in here shortly. The House will be gaveling in at 9, and so we will go to it then and bring you that formal election of the next Speaker of the House.
It'll be exciting. Many of us will be voting for Leader Pelosi.
You do get a roll call vote.
We do. I think for the American people, I encourage them to watch C-SPAN. But the idea is, what place of government? That's why this country is such a great place. What place of government can have, even with discord and discussion and debate, have transfers of leadership in peaceful manner? And that's what we're doing. Might I just, Greta, say that I've been working for a very long time on the Boko Haram crisis and the Chibok girls who had been stolen over a year ago, along with other members of Congress, my colleague and friend, Congressman Wilson, and others. We've gone to Nigeria. We have an announcement today, which we're eager to find out after pressing the Nigerian government, the new president, that 353 women and children have been rescued. I'm hoping that some of those girls will be in there. I mean, I think many people know we've been wearing red because of that. But let me say to the Chibok girls that may still be in captivity, we will continue to fight for you. And we're way over here in the United States, but we believe in the importance of our children, no matter where they are.
All right.
So I'm going for this exciting vote, and I'm just proud of this country and the way that we handle our business of politics and governance in terms of the American people having a voice. And today they'll have a voice through members of the United States Congress, and in 2016 they'll have another voice, select a new president.
We thank you for your time,
Thank you.
Congresswoman. Thank you very much. We're going to take a short break. And when we come back, we'll talk with Representative Charles Dent, Republican of Pennsylvania, about the speakership and this debate over the budget. We'll be right back.